Okay, so I'm going to show you all how to make a little kite like this, and hopefully you've seen the video of it flying, so you know that it works, and it's really easy to do. It works really well. It doesn't have to be too windy, and just having a little bit of wind helps. But if it's too windy, then it can really take off. It's really simple. All you need is a piece of A4 paper like this. You need a little kebab stick made from wood, like that, really light but quite strong. You need some ribbon for the tail, and you'll need some scissors, just regular scissors will be fine. And one of the most important things is the string which you're going to tie it to. It needs to be quite light, and it also needs to be quite strong. And the more you have of it, the better, because it can fly really high then. You need some sellotape as well. And lastly, a little hole punch, or you can just use the end of the kebab stick. Now, you also have to have some ribbon for the tail, the streamer at the end. And what you use kind of dictates the length that you need. So this is quite light, but if you've got something a bit heavier, you can have a shorter tail, and you can experiment as well. Like when you've made it and you're flying it, you can test to see how it works. And if it's a bit unstable, you can have a longer, heavier ribbon on the end. Or if it's really struggling to get up and fly around, then you can just use a lighter ribbon or a shorter piece of ribbon. So what you have to do, you have to start off with your piece of A4 paper. This is just regular A4 printer paper. So you fold it in half like that. You have to be fairly accurate as well, because you want it to be quite even. So I'm just kind of scoring along the end there. Now, this is quite good paper because it's light as well, and that means it flies quite easily. So the next thing you need to do is make a mark about an inch in from the end. You can use a rule if you want to, or you can just guess it. So from the top edge, you come in about an inch there, and then you just come down to the bottom edge as well, and put a mark about an inch in from the other end. So I'm just going to turn that around and hopefully you can see a bit better. The camera's in reverse, so it's a bit difficult to work out what to do. But yeah, so you've got a mark an inch in here and an inch in there on the opposite side, and your fold is just here. So what you need to do next is to fold your paper along this line here. So it's like that. And it's easier, probably easier to fold it away from you, and then you can see the marks then. So I'm just going to crease that down. You can do that quite hard as well. So you've got a decent line. Now I'm just going to fold that just so you can see where the line went again. So I folded it from here to here like that. Now I'm folding this one back onto itself, just along the line that we folded before. It's a little bit like you'd make a paper aeroplane. So I've got one side folded over, and if you can see that, and then I'm going to do folding this one back over here like that. Now, at this point, you can decorate your kite. You can see it's kind of looking a bit more kite shaped already now. You can see you've got a big bit on the bottom. and then you've got your kind of diamond shape. So if you fold it flat again, this is the outside surface here. So that's the bit you might want to decorate. So I'm just going to do something really quick. Do a little smiley face on there. Happy kite. There we go. But you can spend as much time decorating it as you want. So the next thing to do is get your sellotape, and we want a piece of sellotape to go from here to here. So quite a long piece. So I'm just going to prepare that off camera. Now, you've got to be fairly careful because you want it to be quite even and go all the way along. So that just sticks the two sides together. And don't worry if you didn't measure very well, you can always stick an extra piece on the end. And this forms kind of the backbone of your kite. So the next bit to do is to take your kebab stick or your lollipop stick or your twig or whatever you're using. Now this has to go from this corner here to this corner here, so like that. So you can pop it on there, and you can take your pen and make a little mark on the edge, just so it's just in from the corner, and then you can take your scissors and give it a little nick there, and then you can just break it like that, and that'll break really nice and evenly. Then if you've got any splinters, you can just pull them off. So what you do now is you lay that on there, going from this corner to this corner, the widest bit of your kite. Now you want to stick it down with a piece of sellotape, again, like we did. If you get it the wrong length, you can always put an extra bit on. This is a little bit trickier, so you just take your time and get it as central as possible and in line as possible too. Just smooth it down from one end to the other. So you've got a decent, straight, smooth back to your kite. If your piece of sellotape wasn't long enough, you can put an extra bit on. And this is what gives the kite its strength and holds the shape when it's flying up in the air. And equally, if your sellotape was too long, then you can just fold over the corners like that. If you've got any excess sellotape, that's fine. That's okay. So, beginnings of our kite. Now the next thing to do is to flip it over onto the other side, because this is all finished now. What you want to do is we're going to make a little piece for the string to go on, and it's got to be on the top end of on the sort of this long bit on the back. So it wants to be towards the wider end of the kite where we've just stuck the stick on the back. So just folding it over like that. So the kebab stick is along here. Now we want it to be around about a third of the way down, so more or less in line with the stick on the other side. And I'm just going to make a little mark there, because that's roughly where we want our hole to be. So if I just fold that over, you can hopefully see, turn that over. I'm just going to put my fingers there, because that's where I want the hole to be. So when it flies, it will be pulling on that there. Now what you need to do is to take another piece of sellotape. Not very long this time, because it only has to just cover the piece of paper where you made your mark. And all that does is just reinforce where we're going to make the hole for the string. Now this is where your hole punch comes in. Don't worry if you don't have a hole punch, because you can also use the other bit of kebab stick, because it's got a nice pointy end on, and you can poke it through. Or you can even use your scissors if you're careful to make a little hole. But we're going to use a hole punch here because you get a nice even hole, and it looks really neat too. So I'm just going to, you might have to give it a couple of goes because the sellotape is quite tough, which is a good thing. So that gives us the little hole on the edge there, and we're going to take our string. I'm using fishing line here because it's really, really light and it's super strong. And the lighter the string you use, the better it will fly, because there's less weight and less resistance. So you just take the end of the string, whatever you're using, and you poke it through there. You can poke it through a couple of times as well if you want, just so that you get a good hold. Now you can use any knot really, as long as it doesn't come undone. You can use a couple of knots. So I'm just tying a few knots in there just to make sure it stays in. You can pull that tight and then maybe put a couple of others in there. Now, this is quite a long piece of string, so the longer the better, and obviously the longer it is, the higher it will fly. And with a decent little breeze, then it can fly really high actually, so that's really good fun. And it's really stable too, and even if it's quite breezy, it will still fly evenly. So I'm just going to take the scissors and just trim off the excess there, pop that safely away. So that is our kite. So that's the back. We've got our stick on there. We've got a string tied on this end here towards the top. So the last thing to do is to put our little streamer on the back. You want to put it about here, but as low down as possible as you can. I'm just going to put a little mark on here so you can see, like that. That's where it's going to go. Now I've just used some regular ribbon here. It's really nice and shiny. So I'm going to use a slightly longer one, because when I made the one before this, it was a little bit flighty and I want it to be a bit more stable when it's windy. So it's really just a case of sellotaping it on to the front like that. Or, I mean, if you want, you can put it on the underside as well if you want. You can even make another little hole with the sellotape over the top of it and hole punch it in there. I'm going to stick it on the top at the moment just because it's easy to see. So that's on there pretty solidly now. And just for fun, I'm going to make it a bit more curly too. Now I'm just going to pull it along against the scissors like that, let's say. And nice and curly. So that's going to look pretty cool when it's flying, I think. And that more or less completes the kite. So we've got our ribbon on the end like that, and we've got our kebab stick there, and then we flip it over. You can see just here, that's where we tied the string on. And it also helps as well if you've got your string on like a reel or something, so you can wind it in and out easily, because you'll probably have to do that quite quickly sometimes when the wind's really strong. Or you can wrap your string around like a pen or a pencil or something, or another kebab stick or something, or whatever you've got to hand, and that just keeps it nice and tidy as well when you're not using it. So, one completed kite, ready to go. There we are. Thank you for watching. Deal.